In this video, we are going to build a stylish analog clock using HTML and CSS, and to set behavior to this app, we will be using JavaScript, which will be used to power the clock hands as you can see here. And then it's also used for the dark mode toggle. Let me show you what that does. And clicking the dark mode will enable the clock to go to dark, along with the background becoming dark as well. And then clicking light mode again will switch things back to light mode. And one special note about this project is that this shows your real time that is present on your computer screen. Whichever time zone you are from, whichever country you are from, this will give you the exact time that is present in your computer. Now let's see how we can build this project. The first thing you need to do is to download the starter files for this web page, and you can find it on the video description. It will be in a zip file, and once you have downloaded it, extract that zip file and then open that folder on VS Code or any IDE you have on your system. Now let's quickly go through what these starter files look like. This is the index.html page. This is where we write our HTML code, and then inside the assets folder we have two more folders called CSS and JavaScript. Inside the CSS folder, we have the style.css, in which we have a custom font for this web page, which we will be using Rubik. You can find this on Google Fonts. And then we have CSS variables, which can be used to set colors for this analog clock. And then we have some default values set for this web page, where we also declare the font using font family. And then we just have two more sections for element styling and class styling. And then we can just move forward to the main.js, which is the JavaScript file, and these parts I'll just explain it as we start coding. We can get started with the HTML part of our code. First, create a div called container, and also make sure to open this on live server. We can now continue the rest, and then create another div called clock. This will have a few labels. You can create the first label like this, and then set a style here in this format. Then create another span within this and make it as 1. Now like this, we need 11 more copies of this same label, and then we just need to modify these numbers. This will be 2, 3 and so on. And with that, below it, you just need to create another div called indicator, which will have 3 more spans, and each span will have a class called hand, and this span will be used for hour, minutes and seconds. So these numbers are used to represent the dial in the analog clock, and these things represent the hand, hour, minutes and seconds. And lastly, we will be adding another div called mode switch, and this is basically the switch we will be using to set the dark mode on the clock. In here we just need to create another div called slider. We won't be writing anything inside it. Then we'll have another span here called dark mode, and with that our HTML part is now done. We can now jump straight into the style.css. Let us now begin by styling the body element. And then we have another tag called body and then dark. We'll just leave this empty for a bit. We'll get back to this soon. And now we can directly start styling the classes we just declared. First we'll start styling the container. And then we'll start styling the clock. Now we can style those labels which are the numbers we just declared from 1 to 12. Just make sure you correctly add this transform value. If not, you may see these numbers go in some random places. So make sure you get that correctly. And then we'll style the span inside the labels. Now we can style the indicator. And now we'll start styling the pseudo element for this. This will be before. And there is one small issue with the number 12 here. It should be here on top. Let's see what the issue is. Okay, here. Make sure this is 12 and not 21. Let's see. Yes, now it's working. We'll continue the rest now. This will be the styling for the hand class. And now we'll style the minute hand. And same way we'll style the hours hand as well. Now we can style the mode switch. And now you will be able to see that the switch has now been completely designed. But we will be shifting the switch to the right hand side. So let's see how we can do that. And with that we have completed the CSS part for this web page. We'll actually look this the web version this way. Here we have the clock and then the dark mode, but it still does not display us the correct time, nor does the dark mode button work. To make these things work, we will now move ahead towards the JavaScript section. First we'll need to create the CSS variables for this. One variable will be called body, which will select the body element. And then we have 4 more variables which will be as follows. And now we'll get to this part, which is updating the current time. We'll get to these two parts after we are done with this one. So in here we'll create a function called update time. Then we'll create another variable here which will store the date object, and we can use this date object to access our built-in time settings on our computers. Let's see how we can do that. So when you use a date object, you'll be able to get access to this method called getSeconds. Then you just need to divide it by 60 and multiply it by 360. And in the same way we will be doing this for minutes and hours. This will be get minutes and the other one would be get hours. Only difference is get hours will be divided by 12 and not 60. Let me just add a quick comment here. And now we'll go to the rotating part of the clock hands. And these are the backticks. Inside the backticks we will be passing a variable. This variable would be seconds to degrees, which we created here. We will be passing it over to here, and then a semicolon. Likewise, we have to repeat it twice for minute hand and hour hand. And then these will also be changed to minute to degree and hour to degree. And with that part done, we just have one small thing to do. We'll need to call the set interval function and then pass the update time function we just created along with 1000. So basically this is used to update the clock hands every second. Let me just leave a comment on that. And then we just need to call the update time function. Now let's see how it looks like on the web page. As you can see, it has now started working. The time at my place right now is around 4:45, 4:46 to be precise. And now we can do the rest. So there isn't much to do here. We just need to set the dark mode now correctly. Let's see how we can do that. In here on the event listener, you need to open the mode switch variable and then add an event listener to it, where for each click we will trigger an arrow function. An event will happen. In here what we do is we add from the class list to toggle the dark class. Now this is where I said that we will be coming back to a place in CSS, which is here. Make sure to remove these and add these values. So basically what we are doing here is we have taken all these CSS variables from the root and we have applied it here. We have just changed the colors a little differently so that it matches the clock when it's on dark mode. And with that, this is the .dark class, and in here we are toggling that class. Whenever the mouse click is clicked on that button. I hope that made sense. We'll just add a quick comment here. Now let's see if this is working on our web page. As you can see, it's now working perfectly fine. Clicking that, enable the dark mode, and then clicking the dark mode here again will enable the light mode, which you can see by default, and it's also displaying the correct time as well. But there's still a few more things to do. Now if you notice something, is that if you were to refresh the page, let's say you're on dark mode and you refresh the page, it will again go back to the light mode. Now this is the default behavior, but we do not want that. What we want is, if you switch to dark mode, it needs to stay in the dark mode unless you yourself manually click this and make this light mode. This is usually how most browsers and most websites usually work, and they do this with the help of local storage, which can be found within Chrome browsers. We'll see how we can do that. First, we'll need to check if the dark class is already present in the body, in the sense the entire body element. And to do that, we'll need to create a variable called isDarkMode. You can just name it anything. I'll just name it as isDarkMode. It's true. And then we'll check if body.classList. Previously we used the toggle button to switch to the dark mode. In here we are going to check if it contains the class called dark. And then what we do is we go to mode switch and then go to text content, which equals isDarkMode true. If it is true, it will show us the light mode text, else it would show us the dark mode text. So what this does is this will dynamically change whatever the text is displayed on the button. And now we can finally set the mode that we have manually entered to take effect on the local storage, so that whenever you open up your browser, the dark mode, if you have set it, will remain the same. Let me just leave a quick comment here. In here we just type local storage and then set item. In here we type mode and then check is dark mode true. If it is true, the same thing like we did here, we can just copy and paste it. If it is true, this will happen. If not, this will be saved on the local storage. And then finally we can come back here, and in this part we check if the dark mode is already enabled in the local storage. To do that, we'll use an if statement, and we'll see local storage dot get item, and then check the mode on if it is equal to dark mode. And if it is true, this should add the dark class to the body. Adding the dark class, as you would know, will enable the dark mode by default. And then we just need to type body here and then the class list, then type add. Inside that we just need to pass the dark class name, and then we need to use mode switch and then text content equals light mode. And that is all. We have now completed all the JavaScript code that is needed to make this to work successfully. Now let's see the finished analog clock we just made using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. And this is what our finished analog clock looks like. As you can see, it displays the current time that is in our system. In my case, it is now 4:56 PM, and then we have the dark mode here. We can click this once and this would enable the dark mode, and once it is enabled, it will show you the text here called light mode. And if you click this again, it will again switch back to the light mode, and then it will display the dark mode here. And the last test that we need to do here is we need to let me switch to dark mode and then refresh the page, and as you can see now, it remains in dark mode. No matter how many times you click it, it will stay in the dark mode because that mode is now saved in the local storage of your browsers. So only clicking this would change it back to light mode, else it will stay in dark mode. If you close dark mode, else it will stay in light mode. And that's the end of this video. Please make sure to subscribe to stay updated for all my future videos just like this one.